early 1980s, a major dispute arose between the Argentine and United Kingdom governments in the South Atlantic Islands region, known to the British as the Falkland Islands. This resulted in a short war, which the British won. After 30 years, we are now able to establish that a secret non-human, or ET, connection exists, and the existence of a special, intelligent and aware so-called oil, which has been portrayed in the X-Files and Prometheus films. Something so overwhelming and terrifying that it is believed was the cause of the many murders and deaths of scientists and computer programmers at the Marconi Communications Company in Britain. David Grffin from Exopolitics UK gave an initial presentation of this at the July 2012 conference in Liverpool. The Amash project now provides this presentation with extra information and analysis, leading to a possible connection with a similar etheric intelligent black oil which infests communications and communication systems.
And again, if we go back to the clip that we showed at the start of the presentation, where with the X-Files you find that this very scene that I chopped up and showed a kid falling down underground in the background. They'd made sure that they showed oil wells pumping away in the background, you know, this sort of metaphorical thing that's going on, and the kid that falls down ends up getting covered in this black fluid and basically is ill and dies, and they bring in the hazmat people, they bring in the NSA. So again, the X-Files as well as Prometheus has these tones of this black oil substance. So
that has sentience and that also interfaces with the DNA,
yeah,
which is really important because, you know, if something's going to start morphing with our DNA, then gosh, I think it's crucial that we're made aware of it.
Yeah. So we've just seen Alex Jones do what I thought, given that the guy never used to touch the ET issue at all and used to make mockery jokes about little green men. I mean, he's changed over the years, and of course, so he just did that, the whole take on Prometheus, mentioning the whole alien issue. One thing I thought that would highlight the whole idea that, Jan, you asked about, the whole idea of this oil being sentient, and
yes,
perhaps what this whole idea of nanotech means. And one issue that many people are aware of, which of course possibly links to the chemtrails, if you look into some of the research that's been done into it, is this whole very weird bioagents called Morgellons,
yes,
which, if you'll see from the slides, people basically develop lesions and bizarre wires that sort of
protrude from the skin.
Mm-hmm. Awful, nasty injuries. What's also happened, I was in touch with a Dutch researcher that basically found out, he was a microbiologist, he found out that Morgellons exhibited this thing called quorum sensing, Quorum, quorum sensing. This is the ability for these individual components within the bloodstream and this part of this bioagent to communicate with each other and to receive signals inward from an external stimuli. So again, you've got this whole idea that you've got this high-tech bioagent that people are coming down with all over the world, that both seems to be influenced by certain frequencies inside. They contain self-replicating nanotubes. Well, that's a very recent development. You find that ETs have carbon nanotubes in their implants. They come up quite recently.
Indeed.
Array sensors, and the other important point is they found that these the other nano configurations associated with Morgellons theory carry genetically altered spliced DNA or RNA, and as we said, respond to frequency input. So there's a current example of nanotechnology in action. These little beings here.
What frequencies?
I don't know. I've no idea, Miles. What
scalar frequencies or other frequencies?
I don't know. You could ask Mike Castle.
Ice cream van frequencies.
Well, I'd love a Magnum now.
Yeah, it'd be great to have an ice cream now.
So yeah, an example, and okay. So essentially, we have. I was trying to make the point between, if we think that this nanofluid that they got from the Falkland Islands is a planetary based terraforming agent, then I thought, well, this Morgellons thing that's been around for some time may be more of a human biological one, because what that seems to do is sort of terraform the body into its own bizarre sci-fi entity.
But that seems to be precipitated, as I understand it. It never was around before chemtrailing.
wasn't around before chemtrailing to my knowledge, and they have found these very same filaments in some samples of Dr. Mike Castle has found the very same elements that come down in chemtrails from chemtrail residue. They've then under a microscope have taken these out of people's bodies and found the exact match, which is highly scary because it suggests that the black military or whoever are flying these grey tanker aircraft, which are not commercial aircraft as everyone think, these are black tanker aircraft that are dropping this stuff, that someone is messing around with nanotech and trying to get the human body. For what reason? And you know, you could take a step forward and go,
but this isn't the human body, this is everything made of DNA on the planet.
Well, but Morgellons isn't.
It's changing the DNA. It's not even DNA.
Yeah, but Miles, I'm trying to make a point that the black oil we're on about is a planetary terraforming agent from what we gather, but the Morgellons thing seems to just attack the human host, and so you've got two different things. But the point I wondered about is, are these two linked in some ways? Because before we heard about all of this nano oil and its ability to be sentient and to respond to signals, people were saying that someone came out from the military, his surname was Griffiths, I've got an audio interview, and he claimed that this was what they call a binary bioweapon, that it functioned in two parts. So you give the first part out, as you get people then get infected with the so-called Morgellons bioagent. After that, you then introduce and activate that agent by use of frequencies when the conditions are right. So essentially, when they want to create chaos or something even more out of this world, they then activate human beings that are infected by this. And according to one researcher, Cliff Carnicom, who's done a huge amount of work on this, amazing, done it all on his own time, he claims that we all have. He's done a specific test with blood and urine, and he claims that we all have the basics of this Morgellons.
Cliff who?
Clifford Carnicom. Go to his website, is carnicom.com, carnicom.com. And the frightening thing he's found out from doing what he calls, he's done blood and urine tests, but he also developed this test called the red wine spitting test, where red wine is known to be flushy. You swill it around your mouth, you spit it out, you put it under a microscope, you then see this sort of thing, certain moving things that even move when people spit them into the bowls.
He's actually been working with a naturopath on this.
Called Jan Smith, I think that's.
And can I just say, I have to just interject a little thing here about the black tanker planes. They are also using commercial aircraft, and I know this for a fact because
I've never believed that.
I'll tell you why I know this for a fact, because Andrew Johnson has a piece of equipment that tracks aircraft. And he was tracking them when I happened to be visiting on some research a year or two back. And he said, just look at this. And he was as shocked as I was. He had just looked at the trailing going overhead. And you can, on some planes, you can see they will reflect back the number, the name of the plane and everything.
It's the transponder thing.
Not everything does that, but it was an EasyJet one. And he went, my God, look at that. And it wasn't just EasyJet. There were others, but there were others that weren't reflecting back information. So I've seen it with my own eyes.
I would say, it's a side issue, but I would say in that case that they are painting tankers up as with EasyJet logos, and because you're basically then suggesting that you've got passengers on board commercial airplanes that are spraying this stuff out the side, because it does not come through the engines. It doesn't come through the engines. That's this big misnomer that it comes through the jet. It doesn't come through the jet engines. It's a separate system. And I was running the Chemtrails UK sides back in 19.
It was just interesting because I actually saw that and I thought, wow, it's one of those things. If you hadn't seen it, you wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah, I thought it did damage to the whole argument by saying that, but that's a different issue.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
it was purely a military operation in my terms. So
it is.
So the point I was making is there's some link between this. You've got what seems to be a planetary nanotech-based intelligent substance that responds to frequencies. Then you've got this Morgellons thing that seems to affect the body. So you've got the two layers. You've got this mother Gaia Earth that's got this bizarre sentient substance on, and then you have certain people, or all of us, if you believe Cliff Carnicom, that have these tiny little nano machines sit inside us waiting to be activated. Don't know, frightening and quite a negative sort of view really for how things may pan out. But that was just a model and an idea that I thought gave an example of what this stuff might be about. So that's one of the futuristic nano machines that they say in the future these things were, as we say, are going to go out and do far more, just as much as they can go out and clean out heart arteries. Of course, they can do far more damage than that. So this is the part that Miles will be interested in. You'll be interested in as well.
Yes.
And this comes to some points about what we think we know about this, and I'm afraid people are going to have to take this just based on spec at the moment, because this has been built up from some time from interactions with a few people that know a little about this substance. So can you read? Do you want
Yes,
to read those?
if I should read it. So these are bullet points which are really flagging up points about this substance. It says it stays dormant under pressure and cold, i.e. deep into the seabed. It appears to be in several regions around the planet. It reacts to warmth and is catalysed by seawater. It can morph into a vast variety of forms within its chemical structure, and it appears to cause illness in humans in some circumstances. It sends signals when activated and has some magnetic qualities. Wow, that's incredible. And it says, remember, if the Falklands situation is true, this substance may have been in use for over a decade.
Over a decade,
wow.
yeah.
What is it? What are we actually describing here?
Well, this is this black nano substance, and the term that's been found for it, that you will find one article on a scientific paper on the web, is actually called, it's been named algae, A-U-G-I-E. Now, that's not its chemical structure, but this does have links to gold in some way. Part of its chemical structure that it can replicate gold, and under certain circumstances, apparently it can replicate gold. And as you know, the periodic
You talk about the ring, the gold, the ringed gold.
I don't know. I just know that
The way it formed a molecule, which is like a ring, like a benzene ring.
Could be. Well, the AU as a start, of course, it means gold on the periodic table, doesn't it? So that's as much as I know. Alec Newald has done a whole essay on how this links to monatomic gold, which the Egyptians used to take, and he claims there's some link between these two. This next part, which is to me the most mind-blowing of this whole episode that we're about to go on to, the important points to make out here is the fact that in some circumstances it makes some people ill. This is what seems to happen in some situations. The other point is it has magnetic qualities, and
that's phenomenal, isn't it? If that's true.
Yeah, and it also is catalysed by seawater. So when we get onto this next slide, it all starts to fit into place a little bit, because of course, what happened in April of 2010, I think that was right. We had the deep horizon in the Gulf of Mexico. The Americans were drilling, and they got permission. If you go back and look at all their data, they got permission. It went through loads because they wanted to do this very deep drilling. They had to get Environmental Protection Agency to go through it. They had to pay millions of pounds worth of insurance just to make sure, because for some reason they wanted to do this deep drilling. Now, if you look into this whole issue of abiotic oil, which came around at the time of peak oil, it's claimed that is an oil that's deep beneath the Earth's crust, and it replenishes itself. Now, this came around as peak oil came around, and the argument was that, well, peak oil doesn't matter because we have suddenly found this abiotic oil that doesn't come from dinosaurs, comes from deep within the Earth, and magically just replaces itself. Now, I think there's some weird confusion that's gone on and some disinformation that's gone on. I don't know if abiotic oil even exists. I think in the intelligence and oil circles, what may have happened is this stuff, this nano oil, this algae as it's called, may have been confused with this whole idea of this self-replicating morphing oil, and so it's suddenly come up as an excuse for this peak oil thing that we've got lots of oil and it's deep down, it's buried deep down in the Earth's crust, or certainly far deeper than you have to drill. So, as I mentioned, there are several locations where this stuff seems to have been deposited. One of these areas, and this is Alec Newald's theory, again, the guy that wrote the book on the blue ETs, that 65 million years ago is where the meteor hit that killed off the dinosaurs. He thinks that maybe on board this meteorite that hit, it went so deep and created this vast crater in the Gulf of Mexico that this may have carried this black nano oil substance, and it essentially embedded itself into the Earth at a deep level. Now, when you start to look into what BP were doing down there, it all gets very strange, because a certain instance ended up taking place, which was fed to. There's a forum online called Godlight Productions. Now, Godlight Productions, well known amongst the conspiracy scene, has a very low signal to noise ratio. An awful lot of junk gets posted up there, but it seems to be a conduit for now and then for certain people. You can post anonymously, and people will certainly post certain things up that then actually you see then begin to be played out in the wider geopolitical structures that we then see in our newspapers, perhaps in a slightly different way. What Nexus magazine did is actually create a document that basically, instead of save people going through all this, they created a document that basically summed up this situation. And I'll pull up a copy of this on PDF. I was going to summarise the points first. Let's go back to the PDF first. We'll summarise the points after. Okay, I mean, I haven't got time to go through all this. What I suggest everyone does is go and either find this on Godlight Productions website, and you can still, it's called the Berserk thread, Bezerk, and essentially this is all translated from French. What happened was the boyfriend, this is the supposed situation, the boyfriend of a girlfriend who worked fairly high up in the French diplomatic embassy, I presume, or some diplomatic structure within France, phoned him one day and said, something big is going off. We've been put on this stage of alert. Now, she had clearance for a laptop that she used at times, and the laptop was left at home. This laptop had this open channel that allowed him to actually watch what was taking place in real time.
Can I just ask what sort of time frame we're in here? Is this 2010?
Sorry, yeah. So you have it's very important, you have in April, I'm going to refer to my notes, in April 2010, you have which we all know about, you have the Horizon Gulf oil disaster. I've got a shot here, but I haven't got it on here, where you see the huge spillage from the platform, which they claim was due to drilling. Now, there's loads of information I could go into here about how even Halliburton engineers came up and said, you're drilling so deep, you need to, if you're going to go this deep, you need to encase it in this much bracing concrete. There's methods of when you get to the seabed, concrete will not hold this, there's so much pressure down there. BP were getting advised to not drill this deep down, and Halliburton, people like Halliburton were saying you need different methods, and they ignored some of this for cost reasons or for whatever. Obviously then what happened, we had this vast explosion with the oil blew up through the pipe, and we saw the leak that we had take place. 2 months after this, so we have the date at the top there.
Oh yes, that's June 26th,
so
2010.
you're looking at two months after this. It seems to me, reading between the lines, the international community were highly suspicious of this disaster, and you essentially have a standoff with up to 13 nations, all with submarines, some with fleets on top in the Gulf of Mexico. Most of it rotated around a French submarine, and really you need to go and read this for yourself, because I can't read all of this out to you. But the points that I'll make that we went through.
Because if we just say that this is basically the feedback from the guy whose girlfriend had the top clearance for this on this laptop, that she was telling something big was going down.
Yeah. So here it states here, so he calls it the DED channels, and he basically, again, don't forget this was translated from French into English. So the OP, that means the original poster, describes the DED as digital emergency scrambling device. It seems if I go up to the top bit again, my understanding, this is the guy from Duncan from Nexus magazine, is writing the introduction to this. My understanding of DED channels is that they are opened and used by people like key defence and government military officials, ships captains, aircraft pilots, etc. The channels are activated as necessary and seem to pertain to non-routine, interesting, operations and incidents, mainly military, it seems. In other words, the channels are designed to get decisions from the right people when unexpected situations occur that could affect, in this case, could affect French military and diplomatic interests.
I mean, that's tantamount to you know, I mean, you can only imagine somebody wanting to hit the red button as being something of this as severe as this.
Ooh, and it would make sense that each country has its own system like this. That's because of course, you know, you have communications devices differ between submarines and ships and other things. If you've got a major incident, you want everyone on one channel. He also mentions the thing is, if you go and read the language this is written in, it's all in code. there's certain
Right.
codes that that people then on board the forum had to go and look up, and all to do with these code words that were being used.
And it does say here as well is that that they believe that this channel is used for communication about unidentified, intelligently controlled objects in the air,
Yep.
in space, and underwater.
I forgot that bit, and that's pretty crucial. Also, I mean, just things like he knew that they also had a channel above this called the vector channel, which it was encrypted, and what made me think this whole thing was real is this guy said, all right, well, my girlfriend and I, we don't have access to this channel. They switched to this vector channel at certain key moments.
Yeah.
So,
and what seems to start it off, look, is that he noticed some French chatter about that, or seemed to indicate that a French submarine has been attacked.
Yep.
Wow.
What seems to have happened is for a few days prior to that, in fact, it seems perhaps maybe while the actual Deep Horizon oil rig event was taking place, there was a lot of international interest in what was going on there. My theory is, and I think after looking into this area for some time, is that they knew that deep, it may have had a dual purpose. It may well have been looking for oil, but it may well be something to do with trying to find out what this substance is, or there's a more nefarious angle that we'll come to at the end, that they may actually be trying to trigger the release of this nano substance.
Right.
Because what you find is a standoff between certain nations, and it's an amazing, it reads like a spy novel, but I'm 100% sure, I'm 90% sure that this is all authentic. The language that this was constructed in, I don't think anyone had come across before, so I don't think diplomatic channels that are of an emergency nature are well known to many people. Well, the language that this guy came out with, he obviously had to translate, but he still left in these code words. They then had to go and, I mean, let me just make a point. Let's find the key. There was a key here. Okay. It was things like this that made me realise that this had come from some sort of diplomatic channel. So they were using code words. So EM was the code for MROs. That's the French nuclear powered submarine. GCP refers to an unknown French submarine vessel being used by. This is the Grupo, you're better with languages than
The
me.
commandos, parachute. So like the SAS, the type of special
French-
forces
French
unit.
Okay,
Special
could you
forces.
refer to the page when you mention that so viewers can look that up when they could put it online?
Well, this is page 2 of a document that I took from Nexus. You'll have to go and get this online.
yeah, but it's Nexus 27.
Yeah, Nexus issue 27, September 2010. And again, he gave names of vessels. Pourquoi Pas was a French research vessel that was in the area. Another one, Prazuk, a French military spokesman that obviously does exist. French nuclear-powered submarine, Condition Romeo. So there are all these code words that's going on. That's just a few of them that they tried to give a key to help understand all these things. So essentially what happened, I mean, it's interesting the number of governments that are actually involved in this alleged incident. That you essentially had what appears to have happened is that a French military submarine.
What are those governments? Could you list them? Are they there?
Well, there's more. They weren't all in one place. So his girlfriend said something crazy is going on the DED channels, and he's got the laptop link. 11:09 a.m. This is remember, he was posting. This isn't as this was now. He was posting this live at the time on the web. 11:09 a.m. on the 26th of June. Something like 10% of the world's submarines are gathered in the Gulf of Mexico. DED.
That's huge, isn't it?
DED, this communications channel, shows 12 US, 2 French, 3 British, 2 Russian, 1 Canadian, 3 German, 1 Israeli, and 2 unknown submarines. What's interesting further on is you find that the Americans start sending above water naval vessels, ships, that are flying the American flag but have no international radio identifier nor any identification on the ship itself. So although they're flying the American flag to say they're in American waters, then they have no way of identifying who these ships belong to, whether they're Army, Navy, or whatever. She then goes on to basically say that the French has had a damaged submarine, has had to try and surface. They've had sailors injured. This was from an attack from what we think was attack from a US helicopter. Sailors bleeding after this attack. They were trying to get what appears to have happened is the French military submarine had gone down beneath the platform right to the very deep depths and had tried to get a sample of a certain thing. Well, you tell me, if this is a simple oil rig that's just searching for oil, are you going to go down there and try and get a sample of their oil for some reason? You know, is it, you know,
no, it's totally not rational, is it? You just wouldn't.
Yeah, there's no reason why you try and do that. When the US found out that this sample had been taken on board, it gets referred to as Cargo B, and the Americans demand, we find this somewhere down here, they demand that this cargo is jettisoned. So they're obviously all in communication, and this whole this whole standoff then takes place between. It's very interesting because you have the US submarine and the US that are on the surface, US, UK, and Israelis on one side protecting the Gulf. This rim of where this, I think, is where these sonic drills or whatever have gone in, that we're doing this bizarre drilling underneath the deep horizon oil platform, and circling around them on the outer limit are the other nations that are somehow then trying to protect the French vessel to let it get out of the waters with this cargo. They keep trying to detach this cargo from the submarine to give it to their French special forces that are then waiting on the surface, because obviously I think the submarine's in trouble. The submarine's in trouble for two reasons. One, because it's been shot at by the American helicopter. The other reason is when it was forced to surface, which I can't work out whether that was to do with the helicopter shoot or because they started processing some of this magic cargo and things started going wrong with their reactor, things started going wrong with their radar, they started having big problems. Their hull became magnetized in a way that was problematic for their guidance systems. There was big whooshes of black magnetic stuff is how they describe it, and this started to interfere with how the submarine managed to function. Someone told me that submarines the hull relies on a certain form of magnification, magnetication. What's the word for, it relies on a form of magnetized.
Must be magnetized.
Magnetized in a certain way, whether that's for guidance or whatever, and something was interfering with this. Here's the point where at 3:25 on that first day says there, unidentified. Remember, this is in the US waters. I think it's
unauthenticated.
Unauthenticated. I don't know how much of the Gulf is US owned, as in their territories, and how much is international, and whether there was all this talk about quarantining them because they were in US waters. Unauthenticated. You're right. US ship demands the release and jettison of detained cargo. Captain of the French submarine refuses. German submarine ports. We're going to have to skim through some of this because you need to go and read it for yourself. But okay, this is one that I had a double take when I read this, because I read this quite recently.
So this is happening over 1 or 2 days at the moment, isn't it?
We're now on June the 28th, so these submarines are still down there. In my You'll see. I've got a slide here. In my research here, I kept coming across the British and the Americans being part of from the 1950s onwards, being part of operations deep freeze and anti-freeze. Kept coming up, very blatant about them, to the point where I even found that they'd launched a military and cargo ship only last year, and they were starting Operation Deep Freeze was starting again, and they were off down to the Antarctic. Well, the code words that kept coming up in this French diplomatic channel were 300 and 301, and when she asked about these were operations Deep Freeze and Antifreeze. These were apparently the codes for these. Something about engines not working. This is to do with the problems that they have when the magnetic type oil substance starts to interfere with ships' hulls and also with submarines. They start having huge problems with the way things operate. The other reason Miles mentioned why this suddenly went from a sci-fi episode to something real. Well, we have names that I've been checked up of that were mentioned on these channels, like these icebreakers like Polar Bear and Polar Cat, Polar Sea. Interestingly, these all exist. One of these, a week later, went into repair at a dock in America because it also had a problem with its hull.
That's what it's saying there earlier in the material there, that they had to go in for re-rigging.
Right, yeah, and there's a news cutting to that effect that I found that says that's that there. So these icebreakers are pretty sturdy things. They don't suddenly have to go in for repair. Could have been a coincidence. I don't know. Interestingly, Argentina turns up as well. Shows 3 new submarines, 2 are from Argentina. Somehow the submarines, except the US and British, are coordinated coordinating with each other because they form a ring around the rim. This is the rim again where this drilling is going down. And the point that I made, and when I was talking to you yesterday about this, is apparently the French engineers in the submarine had to go and disarm these very high-tech sonic that sounded virtually like weapons that were protecting the rim around where this platform was drilling for this oil, because the only way they could get in through this perimeter was because whoever, BP or the US, whoever had placed these ultra high-tech sonic alarms that apparently were highly dangerous. There must have been some sort of weaponized thing that I think disable submarines. That's the gist I got.
Right.
So you have this standoff, and that's an interesting point. Somehow the submarines, except the US and the British, are coordinating with each other because they form a ring around the rim. So the rim is where these drills are going down, and where I presume the French have got the sample of this oil from. Again, we start to then get very strange things. The French submarine starts to disappear. They start to then make, with their special forces on board. People have died in this. You know, there's people have died. There's several people seriously injured. They call it activated of B3 cargo. And this is what we think this cargo is actually this special oil substance. There's an issue to do with this transmitter, condition Romeo, that's up there about replenishing, replacing, again all this diplomatic language that's used. I'll try and flick through and find new things, but again they have problems when they try and jettison this cargo, and to give it to the French special forces. They try and jettison it from the submarine. Each time they put it into what they call a buoy. As it then gets into the buoy, it starts foaming and starts reacting with the seawater, and they keep having problems. You can see there, it melted and sank. Captain says buoy just popped within seconds of hitting the foam, melted and sank. Second buoy did the same. This stuff is starting to react in the Gulf. Mistral, this is the French submarine, I think, issued alert to all vicinity of traffic to avoid the column. In other words, stay clear from that area, because it seems like this stuff is starting to morph and do things. Okay, pipes on the seabed, B3 cargo, trying to find some other personal bits in this. This was an important point, and I'd love anyone. I could go and do the research on this, but I looked into this polymer chain reaction. The research ship that they'd got there, that was with them the whole time there, that had obviously gone down to look, had got technology on board to analyse this stuff, and they put it through a polymerase chain reaction device. This gets too complex for me. Does that say there, John?
But what's interesting about that, so these people, it looks like they're asking for a method, an approved method to disperse it, and what's happening is it says they report that the dispersal method that they've obviously been given is inconclusive, nano release still plausible, and suspects nanoengineering because of metallic carbon compound morphing.
Okay, here we go.
Good Lord.
So the Pourquoi Pas is a research vessel that by the sounds of it, I think the international community knows damn well what was going on down there, and they know about this black magic oil stuff, and so they've sent research vessels down there trying to work out what's going on. And they've used their equipment, and as you say, they've come back with this result that they keep there. And I think the point that I read into this, when you read the whole document, is they were constantly trying to... There seems to be a playoff between working out what this substance is, but also keeping it safe and stopping it from starting to act. And they had some problems.
It just says here at 1:40 p.m. 2nd of July, Russian Navy requesting urgent assistance from French naval assets to help with inbound tracking possible splash zones.
Okay, splash zones appears to be this international code for where this stuff starts to escape.
Has escaped,
and starts
absolutely,
morphing.
has broken free.
Zones. Miles says that sonic drilling, knows about sonic drilling. EM, that's the captain of the military submarine, reports sonic drilling at breakpoint levels from 3 drills. British submarines moving away from the rim. Mistral instructs the Emeralds, that's the French submarine, to do the same and keep a safe perimeter. So what these sonic drills are doing...
Possible large cave-in on sea floor. Wow, send out heavy downpour alert near rim.
Here we go, out, here we go. Emerald French submarine captain reporting outer hull skin sensors are now picking up flocking of metallic-like fibres and attaching to rubberized skin. Don't know what that means on a submarine. Erosion warning active but low. Also minor sonar distortions.
Submarines are coated with a sort of rubber skin to make them smoother.
Oh, that, right, interesting, right.
It looks like the French Special Forces at 10:49, they requested jettison authorization twice. Mistral, the sub first denied, then approved, but after 80% verification, there was some situation on board the submarine, and the captain reported that every crew member got a vote. The crew unanimously voted to detain B3 cargo and proceed. Wow.
So if you look,
and they want full naval escort. Jesus, what the hell's going on?
If you look here, the dialogue reports that they've made an 80% verification of the cargo with help. Now PP is the research vessel, Pourquoi Pas. So they've got an 80% verification that I presume it is this stuff. That's what they said they've been found. So I think they were down there and basically saying we found that BP and the Americans were drilling to try and.
And here we've got it affecting people. The MO'd captain, they're reporting some crew feeling disorientated. Air EM to do isotope readings immediately on port side where the metallic fibre flocking was worse and growing. My lord.
Okay, here we go. Here's
the gold mentioned.
The gold's mentioned here. Isotope of gold. No idea why that's come through at that point. Again, some of this is pretty random because it's been translated from French, and also this was.
This is very important. Listen to this. The PP, the ship, the vessel, confirmed the discovery of an unknown prehistoric organism, which, through nanoengineering and extreme depth and pressure, morphs compounds found in this new oil with seawater into gold. My God. However, there is a drawback, a massive and absolutely cataclysmic one.
Okay, let me just clear something out before people think that this wasn't stuff that was then communicated through these diplomatic channels. This was the girlfriend of the guy that was sat feeding this information to the forum. This was her going around and asking the more senior diplomats and the military officials what exactly was going on. She's obviously highly trusted. If this case is authentic, she's highly trusted. So because she was part of the team dealing with this emergency, she kept trying to find out bits about what was going on. Because obviously it's a confusing situation, and she was then passing it on. I find it astounding. The bit I found astounding was well, also on the level is how on earth did she manage to keep managing to communicate quite sensitive stuff to him? I mean, that's one thing I did have a sort of issue with. Would the diplomatic service allow? Maybe because she's sub-staff. She's brought in when other staff are busy to do other work, so maybe there's some slight lapse in security there. I don't know, but interestingly, the gold keeps morphing. On morphing here, this translation problem into something else. They can't stop it aboard. So things start happening all the way to a coup d'etat when the evacuations begin. The French Naval Command, they're trying to get out of the area, and they're afraid that the Americans will try and basically take control of their ship again. The Americans are still after them dropping this substance. I think it's mainly because they've got proof of this stuff. That finishes there. We go back up at the top. French suspect the US Navy will try a coup when the US government asks citizens to leave coastal areas. So French ships must prepare for this. So this is all going on.
Well, if, as you say, if this is true, that this is incredible, and then you've got it there at 11th of July, 6:11 a.m. PP confirms organism is attracted to darker pigmentation. Some special forces crew, French, showing no effect at all during quarantine. They remain healthy. Okay.
Okay, that's the important bit.
Okay, read that, David. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, read that bit out because that's important about the cause of.
Okay, 13th of July, 5:32 p.m. Okay, the second unknown submarine captain indicated that he has clear video footage and evidence of who sabotaged the Deepwater Horizon oil rig. The EM captain, that's the MO'd captain, the French one, has concurred on this. What happened now in the past 2 hours is the same culprit is back, and they are asking permission to take them out now within the next few minutes before they strike again. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, a cliffhanger sort of ending to a very weird instance, but the gist of that, I think, the gist, if I read around the forum, was that was an Israeli sub that had been caught using these sonic drills to damage and cause this pollution problem. But of course, one issue that differed, I was listening to Jeff Rent's interview on the way travelling here today, and one issue that this lady who is an expert in the Gulf cleanup of this oil, she claims that oil cleaning technology has not changed in 40 years. In 40 years, the methods of cleaning up oil spill has remained the same. What's interesting, of course, is we have use of this substance called Corexite for the first time ever for this oil disaster, that Halliburton brought in this special substance that apparently is much better because you pour it all over the oil spill. And
this is Dick Cheney's company.
Good old Dick Cheney's company, had brought in Corexite, how many million gallons did they pour onto the sea? I heard a figure. But so for some reason, this disaster demanded the use of this brand new, even more toxic chemical called Corexite. And you've got to ask yourself, why all of a sudden are they using this really toxic substance that stops, instead of the oil slick spreading and coming to the surface, it creates it into a very viscous solution and holds it part way underwater. And
I have to tell you, there were absolutely hundreds and hundreds of options sent in to the various people, and they were ignored, every last one. Even Kevin Costner's special oceanic cleansing. You know, but there were many. There wasn't one or two. And John Hutchison actually made a big inroad there using sonic frequencies, interesting, to clear, and it was successful to some degree.
Yeah, and Jeff Rentz claims that literally putting straw into the water and dragging it out will clear most oil spills. Very rudimentary, but has always worked in the past. All those methods you've just mentioned were banned by the Environmental Protection Agency. They were not allowed to be used. So ask yourself, why in this case, when you have, if this situation is true and you have an international standoff beneath this Deep Horizon oil rig where this very strange substance has started leaking and has made people ill and has caused an international incident, why do we suddenly get this Corexite stuff being used in gallons and placed on the sea to actually turn this stuff into this globular format to almost keep it underwater? You know, it's a bizarre.
And I know also certainly there have been quite a few instances now of people who've swum in the Gulf there and have become incredibly ill. I mean, life-threateningly ill. And there is no support, no help for them whatsoever from the Americans, from their own people.
So the crux of this is, David?
Well, the crux can go off in several directions. My feeling, let's just take this particular aspect. I mean, we can go off on numerous tangents now. My take on this issue, why would you have so many, why, when the international community don't get on so many levels, why would you have 13 nations all with special forces and submarines, high-tech submarines down, ready in that area, almost as if they knew something was going on, and a standoff between the US, the UK, the Israelis, and then the rest of these nations, all trying to deal with it, and the French seem to be brave enough to try and run off with a test of this cargo. I think they knew what was going on down there. I think they knew that BP mixed with Halliburton and others know what's down there, that Alex Newell is right, and where this meteorite hit in the Gulf of Mexico caused a deposit of this special nano substance. What they're trying to accelerate, as we know the rather sick bastards try and do sometimes, because they've got their underground bases, they may also have their off-platform.
Well, talking about bases, around this time there was a French-Italian base in Antarctica which was monitoring a lot of stuff. It's in the deepest or the most southerly part of Antarctica, was taken out by some kind of weapon system, some kind of EM weapon system which totally destroyed all their electronics.
Sorry, what nationality was that again?
Italian-French base called Concordia.
Right.
And they had all their electronic systems destroyed, and they were rescued on foot because no other aircraft could get in there. So it wasn't as if they were bombed by an aircraft, but for some reason, the French and Italian base was taken out. Okay,
that's an important point, and I have here a whole, which you can't go into, I have a whole series of, another series of slides of about another half hour on what's going on in Antarctica with the nature of Lake Vostok, this place called the Dome, where they're also doing this deep drilling, and lo and behold, British scientists went back, I've got another quote here, British scientists went down there, did some drilling, and came back ill. They had to be picked up because they came back ill after doing this drilling. Well, I'm sure there are many ways to get ill in Antarctica, one's getting a cold, bitten by a penguin, but it seems that lots of scientists seem to come back sick from doing this drilling in Antarctica and around Lake Vostok. But can I just finish what I was going to say on this point? My take...
Yeah, in this closing part, you've got 2 minutes.
My conjecture, just it's total conjecture on this point, is that because we know that certain members of the Illuminati, you want to call them, seem to want to accelerate the demise of a certain species and the dominance of their own. I think they know exactly what this substance is. I think they may even be in league with some of the ETs, that's perhaps the blue ETs that Alex Newald linked with. They're in league with maybe the opposite side of those. Sounds very simplistic, but may just be the case. I think the Americans and the Israelis, and maybe the British, by the sounds of it, if that part was true, are trying to get this stuff out from where it's safe, deep down in the Earth's crust, where it's cold and under pressure. As we found out, it's safe, it lies dormant. They're trying to get it to start and come out en masse, mix this with seawater, and start this terraforming process where it slowly starts to take over the food chain. It kills the food chain. We lose this. If we lose the ocean, we lose our food supply. We lose the weather balance. All sorts of stuff starts to happen.
Well, we've seen already that it's already affecting weather satellites.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the other thing. There's another side to this about this stuff also sending signals out from beneath the wall of China. There's a few other things. The other side to this is also perhaps linked to maybe SDI, the Star Wars thing, which we haven't had time to go into, where Anthony Sanchez has done a whole load of work on, very strangely, that suddenly in the 1990s, a whistleblower came out of a very high-level military corporation and basically said, we've got these new nano satellites. He goes, these satellites function with a basically AI-driven nano intelligence, excuse me, and these satellites are designed to protect us from an incoming group of hostile ETs. That's the alleged intent. They've been programmed by these high-tech American companies, including apparently from the Dulce base, and the big fear is this whistleblower came out because he claimed that he didn't trust this AI substance, that these nano satellites that have got weapons on board, lasers, etc. He didn't trust the programming system that was behind all this, because he thought, because it was sentient, because it's been programmed by ETs maybe a certain way, that it may end up turning on us ourselves. So he came
it's
forward.
blocking remote viewers. Can't get a signal out. This brings us to Shelton, who anybody who can get a signal out of this planet for help is being blocked. Okay, I think Joanne, I think we need to wrap this section up.
Well, that's absolutely fascinating, and I think there is so much we need to explore with this, David. Thank you for tremendous amount of work to bringing all this together, because it's certainly brought together a lot of dots for me into some kind of a picture which is not the most wonderful, but let's understand it and let's just see where it takes us. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Absolutely great.
Just received this text. Now, it comes from one of the sources which are in the Basis series. This stuff Grffin talks about is linked to BT's Soul Catcher, which I believe is part of the 1999 experience, which connects to this Nazi stuff. I'm quoting this text message as I've got it. Now, the BT came up with this program, or this project, around about the year 2000, which was called the Soul Catcher Project, and it was designed to capture all of your experiences as you live through your life, and then guess what? It could be downloaded to another body or to other people, so they would know what your entire life was, because BT would have captured your soul. Nice name for the project. They are overlaying, that's to say something to do with the Nazis and this Nazi stuff, they are overlaying two grids on top of each other, and operatives have been trained to straddle the two and work in both. Okay, I'm quoting this directly as it comes. This is what the shape-shifting is about. This is huge stuff. Now, this is the crucial thing, which is why we're breaking into the this edit of Basis 17 Part 4. Technology exists that can enter via a signal into the ear and proceed to track around one's body, unzipping our files, genetic memories, akashic record, and then exit the human body via a thick black tar-like substance. I am serious. And it's that last message, this thick black tar. We believe here at Basis and Underground Video at MJM Productions and the MX Project that this is a live, existing, ongoing project. it involves our communication system, it involves our telecommunication system since the day broadcasting started on this planet, and we believe this is ongoing. That's what's just come in. We'll put this in the edit. This is Miles Johnson reporting for the Amash project for basis 16, or is it 17? Yeah, basis 17. And this black fluidic tar is alive. It works on ideas, it works on radio signals, and crucially it seems to hover or engage on our human thought processes. It's alive, we're alive, let's talk. Whatever's involved here is it's intelligent and it's communicating. It's affected the edits today, it's affected David's equipment at his house, it's affected other Amash people, and as I say, just when we're finishing this edit we've got these messages, so we're going to put this in right now and finish off the part 4.
Thanks for watching and thanks for listening, and let us know if you've got any more ideas on this.